I am the fury of heaven, Hellspawn, God's own wrath. I shall not be denied. I am the light, the hot righteous flame of glory, and my judgment is final.
Shut up. This is my podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Hellspawn. Welcome back to another episode of Spawnography, Hellspawn. My name is Piers Leiden. Pronouns they, them. Here with, as always,
George Marston. Wow, we both did it. George Marston, pronouns they, them, or she, her. Now you got to leave both of those blunders in.
I know. Otherwise, the continuity won't make any sense.
Yep.
Well, we're back for the finale of a great little 7-part story.
Yeah, that's all. Just a breezy 7-piece.
You know, for a 7-part story, fairly breezy.
Yeah,
you know?
No, it reads well. The pacing in this whole arc has been great. And unusually, as we don't usually kind of do this setup, we'll be reading the final issue of one arc and the first issue of another. There'll be a couple little, kind of things like this in the next few episodes, just as we kind of get through this, again, 7-part story. It kind of forces itself into the schedule in a certain way. So
yeah, a little behind the scenes, everybody, is that we record at night. So we know that we are long-winded. So if there's the potential, there's always the potential that we'll spend 2+ hours talking about things.
Yeah.
As evidenced by recent episodes.
Yeah.
And that's only 2 issues at a time. So we know what we're good at. We're going to stay in our lane, and we're just going to cover 2 issues, even though it's weird to split up a certain arc that is only 2 issues, but that's okay.
It'll be back into a normal kind of rhythm pretty soon.
But before we get going, George, how you been? What have you been up to?
Well, in the world of real time, it's almost my birthday. So I had kind of a birthday dinner with my family and my loved ones, and that was really nice. My mom made these really cool, delicious meatballs in her crock pot. That's kind of like one of the things I always love to have for my birthday dinner. I love my mom's cooking. And really, that's been just about it lately, I guess. How about you, my friend? What have you been up to in the last week or so?
I have been work's been kind of busy. We hired some new people. As in real time, I have a big race this weekend. So I've talked
Pierce
about
going to run 300 miles in 3 hours.
The thing about it is that is sort of possible. So the race I'm running is called Last Man Standing. By the time this comes out, you'll know, George, and the listeners will know if they look it up.
I'll know how many hundreds of miles you made it.
Correct. So it's a 4.2 mile loop every hour on the hour until you lose, until you stop. So technically, nobody comes in second. Everybody that doesn't come in first comes in last.
Well, you know what they say.
Yeah, if you're not first, you're last.
And second place is the first loser.
True. And so the guy that's won the last 2 years is his nickname is Wolverine, because he's like kind of short and he's got big. He's grown out like big mutton chops, and he's like ripped to hell. He's like a former U.S. Marine.
Okay,
but I think he's annoying. And as you
what
know,
do you mean?
And as you know, I'm Cyclops coded.
Right.
So it feels like my
inherent.
Yeah. There's an inherent dislike here, I think. And I'm sure he's a very nice guy, but
oh, sure. I'm sure.
So I'm trying to, at the very least, my goal is to run 100 miles. So I will run for an entire day. I will run 24. I will go out into the woods 24 times over the course of 24 hours from noon to noon.
That
From
sounds. You know what you need to do? This is a running tip that I
okay.
heard. This is
Mm-hmm.
an old school thing. One of the early marathon runners used to do this. Is you need someone to follow you in a golf cart, and every lap you need to be drinking a full glass of milk and arsenic.
Ugh. Here's the thing. Not allowed to have pacers.
Well,
Oh,
no, this is a person who would be feeding you milk and arsenic.
well, you're also not allowed to get outside help on the course.
How are you
And
supposed to get milk and arsenic into
in
you,
between
Pierce?
laps. So if you finish the lap in less than an hour, because it's only 4.2 miles. So like I did 4.5 today in like 34 minutes.
So you can stop and have your milk and arsenic.
Well, you'll get a campsite. So then you get to go. And V's doing it too. So, and a bunch of our friends are going. So we have like a crew of like 12 people.
So one of them can be your milk and arsenic person,
That's all you're hearing.
your
Yeah.
your AKA coach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
well, that's a true story. That is one of the early marathon runners. I can't remember his name. It's a true story. I think it was the first, maybe Boston. No, it was the Olympics. It was the Olympics in I want to say St. Louis or something like
it
that. It
sounds
was early
awful.
20th
It's
century,
like, yeah, it was probably like
and
1902 or something.
it was like the first Olympic marathon. And the dude who was like one of the like premier like distance runners, his coach was like following him in a fucking cart and like just having him guzzle milk and
The
arsenic.
fun of endurance sports is that like
You
they
have to
fuck
drink
with
milk and
your
arsenic.
brain and your body so much that like
Yeah.
people start to get crazy theories about like what is good, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and
Yeah.
it changes so much over time.
Well,
Like
at the time, prevailing science was that exercise was bad for you and you shouldn't hydrate too much.
yeah, and now we hydrate too much. I think we hydrate too much.
Now you need to be eating only protein. That's why you need that milk and arsenic and a
Yeah.
stick of butter if you can manage it. A couple of testicles.
Some Rocky Mountain oysters.
That's exactly right. But you want to eat them raw to get the maximum potency of their
Did you
vigor.
read Manhunt,
The
the novel
isn't that
by Gretchen? What's her name?
no, I haven't.
Manhunt by Gretchen Felker Martin.
I have not read it.
It's like a post-apocalypse, but the main characters are trans women
Okay.
who, because estrogen is in low supply in a post-apocalypse,
Mm-hmm.
the thing that will give you the most estrogen is to kill men and eat their balls.
Oh wow.
So
Well, you know, it's good to know what the future will look like.
yeah, so just listen, for any trans women listening. One, read that book. It's fun. As fun as that can sound. Whatever, it's fine. Everybody read Hunger Games, right?
Yes.
But yeah, that's something.
They should
So
bring that into Spawn, I think. Just have Spawn munching on the balls to up his power meter again.
That would be interesting at the very least.
Yeah, he'd be like, "Give me these nuts," and then he'd slam them.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time to get into these issues. I'm pretty excited. I really, as we already kind of said, this is a fun arc. The Kingdom's a really fun arc. I've said multiple times on the show that engaging with the Spawn community, you engage with a lot of people who are like, I'm reading Spawn. Where do I read first? And I am starting to hear a bit of a turn on the post 100 Spawn. Not
Yeah.
all of it, but then people kind of being like, I don't know, read to 121, read to here, read to a little past 100.
People are getting
And
wise.
it's interesting. This is an early recommendation, and I'll say it again at the end. I just listened to Cerebrocast's coverage of Annie Gazikanian with Chuck Austin.
Oh.
And like Chuck Austin, for anybody that doesn't know, pretty kind of like legendarily reviled X-Men writer, which is weird because his bona fides are kind of interesting. Like he was tapped by Alan Moore to draw some Miracle Man, so that kind of ties into Spawn. So this is
Yeah.
relevant. Um, and he kind of had this weird association with like British comics, even though I don't believe he's British. He does not have an accent, so I don't believe he's British.
Hmm.
And then he did like more recently, like She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. He worked on that and some other stuff. And for most of my comic reading life, like I remember the Chuck Austin books, but
Yeah.
they were a punchline
I think they have the disadvantage of happening alongside Grant Morrison's new X-Men.
and alongside
And
Claremont's return
uh,
to the franchise.
well, that was earlier. That was
No, Extreme X-Men's going on at the same time that Austin's
oh,
Uncanny
sorry.
is.
Yes, Extreme X-Men was the second phase of his return
Mm,
because he did X-Men
true,
and Uncanny and all that for
true.
like a year or two before that. They did the 6 month jump or what. Anyway,
The
doesn't matter.
Revolution era, yeah, yeah.
Yes. The fuck were we talking about?
Basically, all I'm saying that
Oh
like
yeah, it had the disadvantage of being a more traditional X-Men comic alongside a X-Men comic that was breaking totally new ground.
yeah. But what's really interesting, I can't recommend this episode enough because, again, as somebody who grew up with that run, that run coming out, and also just everybody being like, "This is bad." Read the Morrison stuff, even read the Claremont stuff because at least it's Claremont. The weirdness of like the Draco and all this stuff. To hear Chuck Austin like sort of explain himself and be like, "This is what I was trying to do, and I just didn't really get to do it." And then even for the host, Connor Goldsmith, to be like, "So when you got fired," and he goes, "I didn't get fired. I quit." And it was because Marvel was putting books into Walmart and had a bunch of new, like they had a distribution deal at Walmart, and they had a bunch of things they weren't like allowed to put in the books at that time, or like they didn't feel like they could get away with, and I just
Hmm.
didn't want to write under those
Didn't
circumstances.
realize that. That's
You
interesting
know,
because that would have to be the late or like the late Bill Jemas era,
yeah,
which like he loved pushing the envelope. I mean, if you've ever read Marvel,
yeah, oh
a
yeah.
true piece of shit. Do you know the story behind Marvel?
No,
I
I'm
believe it
aware
was
of
a
it, but
well, Marvel is a terrible meta comic about Cal AOL, who wakes up in the
right.
35th century or whatever the fuck, and it's run by Ted Turner. It's super weird and shitty. Um, I believe it was Peter David. He had a bet with Peter David, the late Peter David, where Peter David was writing Captain Marvel at the time. It was Janice Vell. Loved the initial volume
Was
of
this
that.
the like competition thing that was like,
Yes, he wanted
yeah,
to cancel Captain Marvel, but I guess the sales were good or whatever. And Peter David, they basically made the story goes, and I'm not 100% sure how much of this is apocryphal. The
this is
story goes that they
wild.
made a bet that Bill Jemas could write a comic himself that would outsell Captain Marvel, and so he created Marvel. And it is one of the worst comics Marvel has ever published.
This is
That was
wild.
also the era of Trouble. You know
Oh,
Trouble,
I know
the
trouble.
loosely like thinly veiled kind of Vertigo style story of Uncle Ben and Aunt May and Richard and Mary Parker and
Yeah.
their weird interconnected teenage love triangle. Mark Millar. Bleh. I'm gonna go ahead and say I fucking can't stand Mark Millar's writing or his personality or his politics.
Fair. Yeah. So this is from Wikipedia, from Dr. Wikipedia. In the year 5002, Ted Turner and Jane Fonda have a son named Cal AOL,
That's
whom
right.
they send back in time to the year 2002 to save him when they believe a meteor strike will destroy the Earth. Uh, a-
Cal AOL.
AI attempts to, or Al, I guess that's his nickname is Al. I now see Al, the name Al is AI, which I
Blech.
hate that. Al attempts to become a superhero despite his lack of superpowers and becomes friends with a cab driver named Mickey and a police officer named Lucy. Though Al becomes rich and famous for capturing criminals, he is upset that crime is rampant. In the year 5002, the world was not actually destroyed, and Ted Turner sends the time machine back to Al so he can come home. Instead, Al uses the time machine to travel to the dawn of creation and meet God so he can determine the meaning of life and the nature of morality so that he can become a proper hero.
I can't stress
Wow.
enough that this was written by the publisher of Marvel Comics at the time,
Yeah.
Bill Jemas, the publisher of the publisher.
Issue 6 ends with an open letter from Jemas discussing his experiences with publishing the comic and announcing the creation of a new Marvel imprint, Epic Comics. Issue 7 does not actually contain any story content related to the events of Marvel and is a submissions guideline book for creators on how to submit their work for Epic Comics.
Yeah, I think Epic
Wow.
was where they did trouble. That was, of course, a revival of an 80s line that was run by Archie Goodwin.
No, Jim Shooter.
Uh,
Epic's a Jim Shooter thing.
I thought it was an Archie Goodwin
Archie.
thing.
Oh, I guess it's both of them.
Yeah.
But it was edited by Archie Goodwin and Al Milgrom, but it was launched by Jim Shooter.
Yeah, I was thinking edited. Sorry,
Gotcha.
by Archie Goodwin. Yes, of course.
The, there were some interesting Epic comics, honestly. You got
Black
Jim
Dragon by Chris Claremont. I have that somewhere.
And John Bolton. Oh,
Yeah,
and
it's a
Dreadstar by
wild
Jim
looking book.
Starlin. Weirdly, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs.
Yeah. This was where they did a bunch of Clive Barker shit.
Clive
They had
Barker,
Elf
yep.
Quest for a while. They did a
Yep.
few things like Elektra by Frank Miller.
Some
Chuck Dixon's
Howard
Law
Chaykin,
Dog.
Mike Mignola stuff.
Was
Oh,
Iron Man...
Havoc and Wolverine Meltdown, a classic by Walt and Weezy Simonson with Kent Williams and John J. Muth.
Oh,
Great
yeah, that
book.
was a great one.
Great book. Really, really ahead of its time, honestly.
Is Iron Man
Man Crash? Yeah.
That's the one that has
epic.
like early CG art.
I think so too. Yeah. Anyway, all this to say, we went on a tangent, but I was saying that it was interesting listening to Chuck Austin kind of not defend himself, because I think he kind of understands that people don't like his work, and he's made some peace with it.
Crash was not the one I was thinking of. Anyway, go ahead.
He's made some peace with it, and he was a great guest. He was like interested to find out that the stuff he did reverberated a little bit, and that some of the ideas he had, like one of his big stories he never got to do was called The Husk Collector, where there was somebody picking up all of Husk's skins.
Weird.
Which does get picked up by, not on purpose, and I think it's just like a similar thought process, but like Toad does that in Jason Aaron's Wolverine and the X-Men when he's the janitor.
Yeah.
And like that becomes like a thing. But it was really cool. It was like really interesting. Like he
wasn't he the one who made Juggernaut and X-Man?
Yes.
I liked that. I really liked that.
Yeah.
I liked the way he used Havoc and Polaris, I think, as I recall.
I mean, everybody dings him for the Draco, I think, but then he explained.
I barely remember that, to be honest.
I mean, he introduces Azazel as Nightcrawler's dad.
Right. I do dislike Azazel intensely.
But the thing is that has been shorthanded into, oh, that's the story where we find out that the devil is Nightcrawler's dad. But he was like,
that's not the thing I don't like about it.
But he was like, well, the whole thing he was trying to do was he was like reading a lot of like biology books about evolution. And he was like, oh, I want to do this story about how dominant species, that arc is like a bad version of, or sorry, it's dominant species was kind of supposed to be this thing where the X-Men would start to see that many different mutants were popping up that had similar powers. And so what would that look like if like a bunch of people with angel wings, a bunch of people with Wolverine powers, a bunch of people with Cyclops powers, a bunch of people with Husk powers sort of tribalized a little bit, like they started to find each other, and like who would become the next true stage of evolution. Because yes, the way that evolution works is that like we'll see like a bunch of different versions of a thing. However, eventually one of them sort of outlasts the rest,
Right. The
right?
most favorable qualities theoretically are the ones that the specimens with the most favorable qualities tend to breed more. Their stock survives longer, therefore those traits become more widespread and dominant.
Exactly. It's Stephen Gould's theory of punctuated equilibrium. And it was just really cool to hear Chuck Austin again, a guy who is pretty maligned in many fan circles for the work that he did, to be like, here's what I was trying to do. I had big plans, but also like I had the book where I couldn't use anybody that Claremont was using, and I couldn't use anybody that Grant Morrison was using. I was the low guy on the totem pole.
Yeah.
So what's interesting, and to tie this back to Spawn, is to say like it's cool to see the fan community in Spawn even starting to be like, oh, it doesn't just end at 100. Like, go a little bit further. There's still some really cool stuff. It's cool to see the critical reevaluation. And we're only covering this now, so we're not exactly part of that. But it's cool to see people going back. I think part of it is that it's all collected really easily. So
Yeah.
it's easy
The
for people to go
Omnibuy are
back.
great. They're really great to read through.
Gotta love the compendiums. But on that note, I think we should get into it.
Let's do it. Pierce, hit me with those credits.
Great. We're up to Spawn, number 113. Todd McFarlane Image Comics present The Kingdom, Part 7, dedicated to somebody we have already mentioned in this episode, Clive Barker.
Oh, how about that? I could see why here in a way. Like,
Yeah.
there's some very Clive Barker-esque, like, concepts and tones. And also, I think this was probably right around the time that Todd McFarlane and Clive Barker were doing toys together.
Yes, that's probably true.
So that is probably a good indicator of why.
Plot by Brian Holguin and Todd McFarlane. Story by Brian Holguin. Pencils by Angel Medina. Inks by Danny Miki. Victor Olazaba. Alan Martinez. Crime Lab Studios. Lettering by Tom Warzakowski. Colors by Brian Haberlin, Dan Kemp, and Haberlin Studios. Cover by Greg Capullo. It's a good one too. He doesn't only have a one big boot. He's got like the one big gauntlet. I like the one big gauntlet. His like crab.
I like that too.
His like crab claw.
Yeah.
I think that's always really cool.
Yeah.
That cover inked by Todd also, which is really, really fun because we're getting less inks from Todd in general. So always cool to see him do a little bit of art.
Yeah, his whole empire is blowing up at this time.
Yeah. Speaking of, one thing we've never really called out is there's the plot and story sort of credits there. And for anybody that's just newer to comics or just confused by a story credit, typically I'd say that means that Holguin's doing the dialogue and narration scripting.
Right. Yeah.
There's probably some of that being done by Orzechowski, because we know that he's been sort of the copy editor before, and he's kind of massaged dialogue and things here and there. But on the whole, the words you're reading on the page are Holguin's. The overall general concept, the plot, is Holguin and McFarlane. It's a weird way to break it down because I think we've typically in other comics seen it as the plot credit is really the story credit, and then the scripting credit is the dialogue and whatnot.
And usually in many cases, if not all, a single writer is credited with scripting and
true
plotting, even if they work with an editor to come up with a plot. In this case, Todd's more hands-on. Usually what this really means is that Todd and Brian Holguin are talking out the plots that they intend to have happen, and then when Brian Holguin will put it together in a script and then add in all the dialogue and stuff. So
yeah,
it can be very fluid. It's kind of like on a movie, sometimes there's a story by credit, and it's because that person originated the concept that another writer then turned into the thing you're seeing. It can be complicated, but yeah, I mean, it breaks down that Todd and Brian are coming up with the stories, and then Brian's actually writing them.
Yeah. So I'm going to read the summary of the last issue. If you've just listened to the last episode, you'll know it was a big old fight, but here's the Spawn 112 summary. As Sam and Twitch request that Central Park be closed down, the night of the cleansing is already underway. But there is no one to be cleansed. Much to Simon's dismay, the entire city seems to be free from sin. Spawn has taken the burden upon himself. Elsewhere, Dawn is about to, quote, save Max when she meets an untimely end, courtesy of Ab and Zab. While Simon and his legion of vampires prepare to attack Spawn, Ab and Zab are in the citadel of the kingdom, busying themselves by building a doorway to hell. But we're not going to really check in on any of this to start this issue. We're going to
No.
start with, I mean, a pretty sad,
Yeah.
a
Two
pretty sad
things real
sequence.
quick
Sure,
before we get
sure.
into this. One, the portal to hell thing, you can see the Clive Barker similarity there too.
Yeah, totally.
Two, before we forget, right off the bat, I'm going to throw out a content warning for self-harm. As usual, we won't get too deep in the details, but this issue opens up in a pretty dark place, as
Yeah.
Pierce was about to explain.
Yeah, I'd say self-harm, suicidal ideation, that kind of
Yes.
thing. It's pretty tough. And we get this kind of. I'm really liking Holguin's sort of dialogue, inner monologue for some of these characters, and I really like his Sam and Twitch in general. We get this kind of close up of somebody loading a bullet into a gun.
Yeah, loading a revolver.
And it's great. It says, I came to the end of my rope. Work in law enforcement as long as I have. You hear that phrase a lot. Some idiot shoots up a subway car. Unemployed bricklayer takes his own 3-year-old hostage. They all give the same reason. I came to the end of my rope. I just couldn't take it anymore. I never really understood what that meant, how it felt to be so desperate and lost that you don't care one whit for your own future. No, I never understood. And as this goes, he's not just loading the gun, but he's getting ready to pull the trigger.
Yeah, so we see essentially we turn the page and there's this incredibly tense and dramatic splash page of none other than our good friend Twitch Williams seemingly preparing to take his own life.
Yeah.
So it's pretty tough. He is contemplating his son Max, who we know was recently turned into a vampire during this arc, and he is essentially saying he failed as a father and a man, and we leave him there in the throes of his terrible depression. We cut back to Central Park where Spawn and the vampires are fighting. Simon Pure is leading a horde of vampires. Where we left off, Spawn's cape was kind of entangling this huge spire of like vampires all leaping at him. And here we kind of pick right back up with that. It says, the pack moves with one mind, a shambling wall of flesh and bone. This was to be their night of glory, the night of cleansing. They descended on a city, a holy army of assassins, but they were denied by Spawn. And this is just such a cool fight scene. We talked about in the last issue how fucking hardcore and intense everything was, with like Spawn shooting his fingers like the T-1000 through the guy's face, filling another guy's skull with his cape till it burst. And here he is finally getting overwhelmed by these 777 vampires, is the number we know. Maybe a few less now, depending on how good Spawn has been fighting.
Depending on how it's gone so far, yeah.
Yeah. But they are essentially tearing at Spawn. He doesn't have blood. We know he's got necroplasm, but as it says in the script, that's not stopping them from unleashing their full fury. But there's an ironic twist here, because what does Spawn do? But he summons help from the night itself. And you know who lurks in the night, Pierce?
Who?
The creatures of evil that represent the true darkness of sin.
That's
and
true.
we also know that Spawn is even more connected to the concept of sin than ever. And so he summons down a swarm of bats and a horde of rats and creatures and insects to start overwhelming the vampires. And though it doesn't kill any of them or defeat them, it does give Spawn time to rally while they're all preoccupied with these creatures that normally you'd see associated with vampires.
We've said it before, but this whole arc is so well paced. It's really, really Holguin's able to sort of get you just to the like he's edging us. Is really what I'm saying. What
He's building up the suspense and the tension for the fight between Spawn and Simon
he
Pure.
does a great job of building up that suspense and tension and then cutting away. Right? We saw it already with the scene with Twitch. We cut into Central Park. Notably, and we didn't mention it before, it is Central Park 10 days earlier than we saw Twitch. That is notable.
Yes, that is notable. It's important. Just to say, I love the art in these sequences where the like bats are swarming the vampires and stuff. I kind of like how it ties in a little bit to the mythos of Spawn, where these creatures are tied to the sin of the night and the soil of the earth and all blah blah blah. And these vampires have essentially turned away from all of that. They are quote unquote
right because they're
vampires
of heaven.
Of course, these creatures of darkness would turn on them as well. So yeah, we cut back to the citadel of the kingdom, that ever-reaching spire of heavenly vampire haven that reaches
that is indestructible.
Yes, that Spawn tried to destroy with all of his might and didn't work. So he's got a plan. He sent Ab and Zab to open a portal to hell in their lobby, essentially, to swallow the entire spire. And they're doing that. And Max Williams, Twitch's son, is with them, and he's saying, "What's going to happen?" And I believe that's Zab says,
"We're pretty bad at keeping track of this."
I can't remember. The more Keanu-ish one says, "Ever see Raiders of the Lost Ark? Remember the ending? All them Nazis melting like wax? It's going to be that, except way worse." Which, I mean, good.
But that said, like as I guess basically what we find is that not all of the vampires went to the night of the cleansing.
No, only the 777 chosen ones. There's still more vampires like Dawn.
Yeah, the kingdom has more kind of followers, but those were sort of the chosen ones.
It's like the Foot Clan. As we were discussing in the last episode. It's like all these teenagers are hanging out with the Foot Clan, but only an honored few are allowed to wear the dragon doji.
Yeah, exactly. And you wear his mark on your forehead. Anyway.
Yeah.
I realized partway through doing that I should not go full that impression.
I mean, R.I.P. Splinter.
True. The reason I bring that up is because as they are finishing, they're drawing a sigil on the floor of the citadel of the kingdom. It is a giant pentagram, essentially. And,
huge. Yeah.
And they are hoping to open this portal. It's not quite finished yet. And as they're finishing, they get attacked.
Someone bursts in and says, "How'd you get in here, intruders?"
Yeah, and kind of sends the more Alex Winters looking one flying. We cut back to the park, and the cops don't want to do anything, which is
actually
accurate.
No, they want to go do something. They're like,
"Oh, they
what the
want to
hell's
check
going on in there? What's that sound?" And they're like, "Something hanky going on in there. Screw this standing around. I say we check it out." And Sam is like, "No." See, you were on the right track, though, because in the real world...
What I meant is that they want to not be doing what they've been asked to do.
Correct. Now, I thought you were referring to the fact that in the real world, these cops would much rather be just standing around playing Candy Crush or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, that's true. I don't love this Sam here. I don't know. It's kind of interestingly rendered. This feels
I think
like
trying to make him look serious.
I guess it feels like maybe Medina didn't finish. This kind of whole page kind of feels like Medina didn't finish, or
the faces aren't as good as they could be in a lot of the eyes here are very cartoony. You know, there's a little more of an almost animated look to some of this, and some of it is great. I love that top panel where Ab and Zab are under attack, and I love all the very scratchy inky speed lines and stuff. But you know,
If I had to pick one of the inkers who maybe did this, I would say Victor Olazaba.
yeah, I could see it.
Uh, Mostly for his collaborations with Humberto Ramos is where I'm mostly familiar with
Yeah.
him. And it also, but similar to some, I don't know if you've seen some like Michael Gaidos pages
Hmm.
where the pencils are straight up just like a perspective line and it just says like bookcase. And then you're
Yeah.
like,
Or
sick,
like John
okay.
Romita Jr. is another like prime example of a guy who's
Yeah.
just like,
Buildings.
yeah,
Where they just kind of write it in and they're like, yeah, inker, finish this because we're on deadline and it
yeah,
doesn't matter that much.
yeah,
Feels like maybe this was a bit of a looser page for
yeah.
old Angel Medina, but which is okay. I'm not saying
On
it
the
doesn't
other
look bad.
hand,
It works.
the next page where we cut to Twitch and he is kind of looking out the window. His wife is asking him if he's waiting for something. But I love this panel where we cut back to the park and you
Yeah, it's
see
so
like all
cool.
the vampires getting swarmed. I love this one vampire claw right up in the foreground that's getting like gnawed on by a rat. And Spawn, I love this page. Spawn lashes out with his cape and his chains and sends all the enemy vampires flying. I love the way the chains are rendered just as speed lines. I love everything about this. Spawn, like his anatomy is crazy here. The cape straight up just looks like a random jagged shape.
He's just like
He's
bursting out.
Yeah, it's
So cool.
almost like the Spawn version of that classic like Superman breaking the chains in a
Yeah.
way. It's a great, great, great
Also, the
panel.
coloring is really interesting because we're not in black and white, but we're doing these sort of like light blues, grays, blacks, and then the red really acts as an accent color.
It really works
Really
for
interesting.
conveying the like vampire vibe of it
That
all.
and like it's night, but there's some light because we're in the city. It's really cool.
What year did this come out again? Is this 2000? This is late 2001.
This is, I'll tell you, this is 2001. Yeah, it's late 2001.
It just occurred to me that like a lot of this really reminds me, like especially this stuff reminds me a lot of Blade, which would have
Mm-hmm.
come out just a couple years earlier. Great fucking movie too.
Hell yeah.
uh I like Blade 2 as well. It's kind of polarizing because it's a little silly,
Del
but
Toro, do a Spawn movie.
fuck yeah, Guillermo del Toro do a Spawn movie. That would be that would be so good.
Ron Perlman, be Malbolgia.
Bro, I'm a Braun Perlman, be Malbolgia. Call me. Bring back Michael J. White. No offense to Jamie Foxx, but Michael J. White, kind of the action star we all have always deserved.
Is that who we really want as Spawn, though?
I would like to see him get another shot at it.
I think
You
I don't know. I would
Maybe
like a
Mahershala Ali. We don't need to do this.
Mahershala Ali would be an incredible Mammon,
Oh, whoa.
right?
See, we could write movies. We
Michael
could
Jai
make
White as
movies.
Cagliostro.
Eh. Cagliostro is a boring ass white
That's
guy.
true.
Kind of Willem Dafoe as Cagliostro. We're just doing a whole thing right now. So back in the world of the comic that actually someone created, Spawn is saying, enough. This is between you and me, Simon Pure. I like that it says it with quotes like,
Yeah.
if that is your real name, you boring nerd. Face me like a man. And Simon Pure bursts out. It's this cool double page spread where he says, it will be my honor. And he's got this like crazy, like, the anatomy of his leap is just like straight up like Ninja Scroll looking. And
Totally.
then the Spawn like claws up at the top. Tell you what, Medina's getting good at the hand stuff.
He's also
He
realizing that he's got to put something in the foreground to really start to
he's
frame his
getting
panels.
yes.
Really
That
cool.
is a kind of Spawn like style thing that gets brought back with
Listen,
artists.
I do think that if you want to level up as an artist, having Todd McFarlane be your art director, probably not the
Couldn't
worst
hurt.
gig in the world.
Couldn't hurt.
Dude knows the rule of cool like he invented it.
Oh, absolutely. Like that's what's so great about his Spider-Man in particular is that, as you exactly just said, it's rule of cool where like he understands. I'm going to make a really fucking nerdy comparison where in a lot of ways, and not so much in terms of the tone, because I think Todd McFarlane would consider this to be a hoity-toity comparison, but it's almost like, in a way, King Crimson, where you listen to King Crimson and you're like, oh, these guys know the fucking conventional music rules so well that they no longer apply. And
Yeah,
they can make something completely chaotic sound like its own kind of recognizable but still totally unique thing. That's kind of the same thing with Todd McFarlane to me, especially those Spider-Man issues where he really came into his own, where he was like, okay, I've kind of mastered these straightforward comics. Basically, I know how to do these. I'm crushing it. Let's push this anatomy. Let's push these designs. Let's push these layouts to the point where no one else could be drawing like this.
yeah. And I think that it's proof for all you fledgling artists out there that, like, yeah, you can be punk rock and like not know anything and just kind of fuck shit up and maybe you do something cool. However, if you are pretty well versed in the fundamentals, you know, you
You can
can you
take it
can
really far when you start to break outside of them.
yeah, right. Like you kind of got to know the rules before you can break them, right? So
Right, exactly.
McFarlane is such a great example of that, especially because he's somebody with so much of his art documented that you can
Yes.
really watch his progression from Infinity Inc.
Yeah.
Forward, where, and I understand the progression ends at some point. I think, if I was going to say any of the Image guys that kind of still progresses in some way, it's probably Larson and Lee.
Yeah.
And I would say Larson mostly because he's the one of all of them that draws the most.
He still keeps going. Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. Is that I think if Todd McFarlane was drawing comics every day for the last 20 years, like he was for the 30 years or whatever before that, uh, his style would have come a long way too. I mean, you can look at
Sure.
guys like Joe Quesada as another example of someone who had a very specific 90s style that has evolved significantly. I mean, you want to talk about the evolution of an artist's style. Look at Frank Miller. Frank Miller is the Nicolas Cage of comics, by which I mean Frank Miller hit the absolute peak of the industry early in his career, and then he
Yeah.
was like, now I'm just gonna fucking get weird with it and have a good time and try to do my own thing. Love it, hate it, whatever. Miller's doing something that is totally his own.
Have you seen the Spawn cover that he did?
Frank Miller's.
Yeah.
I think I saw it.
So he just did one with Todd inking, which I'm sure was
Mm.
Todd's like favorite thing ever. It is crazy to look at the pencils and look at the finished product because the pencils, obviously something changed in
Oh
the
yes, I
story.
did see this, and
Yeah.
it's from what is the
Curse of Shirley
Curse of
Johnson.
Shirley Jones? Thank you.
We're getting a new Spawn in Curse of Shirley Johnson,
Yeah, yeah,
which is interesting. But uh, Frank Miller is such an interesting case because I do think that his art is poorly served by modern coloring. I think we've talked about this before, but I believe it was
that's the thing
was
that's
it
been
maybe
going around
James
for a while.
Herron
Yeah,
who had done
there was that whole thing that someone did that, like, yeah,
like recolored his art, and it actually kind of made it look kind of good. But then,
yes,
but the other thing is he's
but it
what, like
was
eight.
seen as quite gauche by the community.
I know, and I'm like, whatever. People can do whatever they want, right? Who cares? But
Yeah,
Frank Miller doesn't care. He doesn't give a shit. Um,
no, he's
I
done his job.
maintain,
He collects his
I
paycheck.
maintain that Dark Knight Strikes Again is better than Dark Knight Returns. Uh,
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not a fan of either of them. I'm not a huge fan of Frank Miller. I like his earlier art in a lot of ways, but his writing has rarely really spoken really strongly to me. That said,
I don't think I'm a huge Frank Miller fan in the sense of I can recognize his impact on the industry, and from a more academic standpoint, I understand his work, but I wouldn't. I don't know who's going out to buy the new Frank Miller cover now, even
right,
if you are a big Frank Miller fan, because I don't think that you're a fan of the thing that he's doing now, probably. But I kind of respect the
right.
fact that he keeps getting paid for this shit. Dude's drawing
I mean, he's
Wolverine like
doing
he's
his
never
thing,
seen the
you
man.
know? Yeah.
So,
Like
and
he's
like,
running a race.
yeah. So, anyway, to get back to Simon Pure and Spawn in this sick, sick, sick fucking fight scene, Simon Pure's got his
Yeah, this
sword
double
out,
page spread with the like jagged panels. It's
arms and
awesome. The
legs
coloring is
akimbo.
great.
Really cool. The splashes of green of the necroplasm are really, really essential. It's a little bit of
And
a
then
muted
those like
tone.
splatters of white, even
So
with the
cool.
blood. It's
So
really
cool.
great.
The
It's
speed lines look
really
really, really awesome.
great.
This is a really, what's really impressive about this double page spread is that you can really understand everything that's happening. It's extremely clear. Even the panel that at first it's like, oh, there's negative space there. Nope, that's a sword.
Yeah.
Really
Yes.
cool.
I love this whole next sequence where Spawn is fighting Simon Pure. He gets stabbed. Spawn's like, "This is my city. The only judgment that counts is mine. Understand this. You're no hero. You're no savior. You're simply a killer in martyr's clothing." And I love this panel of Spawn grabbing Simon Pure's face and this huge fountain of energy, like bursting out of his skull. It looks awesome. Rendered so well. Colors immaculate. Really, really love this whole thing. The anatomy of Spawn here is awesome. One big boot looking as good as ever. And we find out exactly what Spawn is doing here as he has grabbed Simon Pure's face and used his energy to blast him. We see that Spawn has put the mark of the sinner on Simon Pure. Simon not so pure anymore.
Hell yeah. And as he does that, the horde that Simon Pure was commanding has now changed their target and set their attention to him as he is about to
It's
be.
interesting that you can see all their like gouged out eyes now and stuff, and like Simon Pure doesn't have his glasses on anymore.
Kind of feels like when
Super creepy.
Spawn did that, he sort of depowers them a little bit because
Right.
Simon Pure is not sort of powering them up. But that's going to cut back to Ab and Zab and Max because uh, there's a bunch of other vampires that are trying to stop them from
Ab
what
is the
they're doing.
blonde one, as we always discover.
Is that what it is? Well,
Yeah,
one day
Ab
we'll
is the
learn.
blonde one.
And they just start headbutting zombies,
Vampires.
throwing around their markers so they can finish up the sigil.
Yeah, I like when he's like, "I lost my pen," and Zab is like, "Are you kidding me?" It's so funny. And then, yep, guess what happens? He uses his marker to finish the sigil, and sure enough, the pit of hell opens right underneath the citadel of the, what are they called? Oh my
the
god.
Citadel of the Kingdom.
The citadel of the kingdom. I wanted to
So
say the citadel
one
of the
thing that I'll
flock.
say
That's
is
not
I
right.
understand why the pacing in this section is the way it is. It's cutting back and forth between Central Park and also what's going on with Ab and Zab. It's trying to be a little bit more cinematic about things, about like this is happening at the same time this is happening at the same time this is happening. But that hasn't been the structure of the book exactly to this point. It is so it's weird to get like a half a page of something, two panels of another thing, another two
Yeah.
panels of another thing. I don't love it, but it's fine. The vampires back in Central Park also now have S's on their heads, so they're attacking each other.
Yeah.
They have the mark of sin
They're going to
on
wipe each
themselves.
other out, is the idea.
Yeah. The Citadel of the Kingdom explodes, and we get the did you see Raiders of the Lost Ark kind of panel where everybody is
Yeah.
disintegrating? Pretty cool. The pretty cool like looking panel.
I love the tower crumbling here.
Yeah, that's cool.
Kind of reminiscent of the tarot, of course. The tower is
Mm-hmm.
a tarot card that symbolizes destruction of established systems.
And Spawn has kind of burned a circle around the fighting zombie hordes of zombies, a circle of
Yeah, they're all
fire.
basically immolating themselves
Yeah,
while
there's
trying
no
to
way
kill
that they're
each
going to
other.
survive. And I love this from Brian Holguin here. The sky lit up like a candle on the 4th of July. And then it was all over. Good guys won, bad guys punished. The world could sleep safe and sound in their beds. You know, I used to believe things really work like that.
Great
It was a
image of
week
Spawn
before I
there.
heard from him. He came to me in a dream just like last time. And we transition back into the dream that we've seen Twitch have before.
Yeah. His son, Max, visiting him essentially psychically. And he's telling his dad, I love you, but I have to go far away, maybe forever. It's all my fault. I'm sorry. Forgive me. And there we see Twitch. And once again, I'm going to give a content warning because he's got the gun in his hand. This time he pulls the trigger. And who's there to stop him but Spawn? The bullets are removed from his gun magically through Spawn's powers. He says, "Who do you think you are? This is my life. Do you think you're saving me? I lost my wife. I lost my girlfriend. I lost my son. You think I have something to live for? Do you? Answer me." And Spawn just says, "I may have need of you again," which is so badass and intense as like, that's just like such a Clint Eastwood thing, like totally fucking cold.
There's there's something to this Spawn. I I again, to go back to sort of the critical reevaluation of the stuff that's happened after number 100, before 250, when a lot of people say like, oh, jumping on point, blah blah blah. There's a self assuredness here that we didn't get in the first 100 issues. That like also, despite Spawn's power, it's not that he felt like he was in danger. This felt like really fun superhero comics. Like it just felt like, yeah, I know I'm going to be able to read another Spawn comic next week, but like he had to solve a thing. He had to sort of fight back against the thing.
Well, yeah.
Uh,
I mean, that's the thing. In a comic where everything's going to continue, presumably, it isn't, the point isn't to be like, could Spawn have died here? Could this be the end of the
yeah.
story? We know it's not. What we want is a good story, and we want something that's going to hook us and make us feel like we're part of this kind of this continuum, this story that we're all reading together. You know what I mean?
Well, and also the stakes kind of fall to some of the side characters a little bit. The stakes for Twitch right now are so high. The pathos of the book gets to be the the world of this man and how broken his life is. And like, yeah, Spawn is a part of it, but it's not Spawn's fault necessarily. And I think that again, I think this is the thing that Todd time and time again has come back to in terms of like making a Spawn movie, where it's like, I need Spawn to not be the focus because I maybe think that the Wanda thing's not the most compelling thing in the world. However, how Spawn interacts with the people around him is pretty compelling, and how he
Right.
affects the world around him is pretty compelling. And it allows him to be that kind of Clint Eastwood badass, right? I
Yeah.
may have need of you again.
Yeah.
When you're about to like end it all, somebody says that to you, they don't allow you the freedom to do this thing, is it's really interesting, partly because Spawn has enlisted Sam and Twitch in a way that he was tricked into being enlisted, and I don't think he sees the parallels exactly.
Well,
But
it's also hard to tell. Does Spawn actually care? And this is his way of being like, I
right,
can't. I have to save your life somehow. Or there's a depth of emotionality to it that I
yeah.
think is worth unpacking.
And I like that we don't get his interiority here to know.
Right.
I think he's better as this, no pun intended, I guess, specter of emotion. Like,
Well,
I,
sure. Yeah.
he's better when we don't know everything going on with him. And I think Holguin and McFarlane's approach to bookend this issue with Twitch is really great stuff.
Yes. That said, there is a brief epilogue, and it
It's
will
true.
take us into our next issue. In this final little page here, in Rye, England, a guy sitting in a pub is drinking himself silly. And who is it? but none other than, as we were just talking about, Cagliostro. And who should stroll up to him but Mammon?
Yeah. They're really playing up Mammon's scar these days.
Yes.
So in
Yeah.
case you think he might be Harry Houdini, he is not.
No, he is
Just for
Mammon.
us.
And he says, hello, old man, what a dreadful place you've picked to spend your final days. And Cog is like, piss off. But Memon says, I have the most exciting news. It seems the silly bastard finally did it. Opened up the Pandora's box. Didn't take him long, did it? And we get this great close up of his scarred eye. And he says, now I wonder how he'll feel when he realizes what things he's just let out. And
My
maybe
favorite
we'll
thing about
find
that
out.
panel is the tiny little fly in the corner.
Yes. Because he's always covered, he's like, yeah,
It's great.
covered by flies, which technically that's a Beelzebub thing, but
Well,
Lord of the Flies and all.
yeah.
Anyway, Pierce, it's time to hit me with those credits for the next issue.
Okay, this is going to bring us to Spawn number 114. This is Todd McFarlane Image Comics present The Bridge, Part 1, dedicated to Michael A. Kahn, who I forgot to look up.
Okay.
So I'll get to that in a second. I think it's a lawyer and political cartoon scholar. This is just what, yeah.
Okay.
He was selected to serve in critical roles by 3 California governors, Gray Davis, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Gavin Newsom.
Cool.
Yeah. But maybe that's not who it is. Anyway.
This Michael A. Kahn that I'm looking at is
Oh, a
the
mystery
owner
writer.
is the owner of the Charlotte Checkers hockey team.
Oh, it could be that. It could be anything.
Yep.
Could be anything. Yep. Anyway, the rest of the credits are exactly the same as before. So I'm not going to read them all.
Great.
We're going to open up at the Coral
Good podcast,
Pacific. We're going to open up at the Coral Pacific Hotel in Awaji, Japan. And a Japanese gentleman is walking up to the counter and he is trying to check in and he asks in some sort of broken Japanese if the woman, the receptionist, speaks English. And she says, oh, yeah, I do. They do sort of... You can read the Japanese here in kind of the what's it called? Not
it's consonants. Like the westernized phonetic.
Yeah, the phonetics. That's what I was looking for. They do sort of phoneticized Japanese here, which is whatever. That's interesting.
This is how Japanese is written in Western.
Oh, I'm just surprised we didn't do the carrots.
Oh, right. Yes. No, we're actually getting the Japanese. Yes.
Yeah. Which is interesting.
Yes.
Interesting choice.
Different.
So,
so it establishes that this is Ben Nakadai, a stranger in the land of his ancestors. It says he's never enjoyed traveling and establishes he's from San Francisco. He's never thought about going back to Japan, but he had to go back for work. He has these dreams while he is staying in this hotel where he is wandering through the forest in his kimono, and he comes to this clearing where there is this massive ornate bridge stretching off into infinity across this like kind of cosmic chasm with spirits walking on it. It's very Spirited Away.
Yeah.
And it says there's a vast chasm between what is true and what is believed to be true.
Yeah, it's like this bridge through time and space that like is kind of impossible. And where it lands also too is this like fiery island. And when he wakes up, he can't help but draw it. He keeps drawing like what it looks like and what the symbols are. And so I kind of always love when artists get to do this, where they get to draw a character making a drawing. and they kind of have to draw it like a little bit different than they normally draw to make it
Right.
seem like the character doesn't draw exactly like they do. And it's just this like little sketch, which is kind of fun. He's calling a number and he's not unable to connect. I really like this whole intro because we've never met this guy before. We get no indication as to who or what he's connected to. Feels very
Other than his ancestry, which is
right, but
drawing him home.
feels very Chris Claremonty
Yeah.
to give us this kind of extended intro. And also because the longer it goes, the more important you think you're led to believe he is. And I
Yeah.
guess we'll really get into that over the course of this 2-issue arc. But
for now, he's sitting in the bar at the lobby of his hotel, and who should approach him but Mammon? Now, rather than being a kind of Caucasian British man, Mammon is taking a form of a Japanese man. This is, look, there's a version of this that's maybe problematic, but this is a thing where this is a metaphysical being that is kind of like Galactus, who is appearing in whatever form he needs to fit into the population.
He's supernatural. I think that this
he doesn't
is
look like
mostly,
this at all. Like
this is definitely the sort of like Japanese version of him, sort of. And so
he's
if you
a
just imagine,
shapeshifter.
and he's got magic powers, so it's fine. And I think that in this case, he's trying to make Ben Nakadai comfortable. And
Yes.
psychology tells us we are more comfortable around like people that look like us.
I think he's also trying not to stand out in a way, you know.
Correct.
So he approaches and, you know, they make a little small talk and Mammon joins him and they start drinking together. And you get this little explanation from Ben that he's working with this firm that is developing a resort. There are the remains of an old temple on the property. Our contract requires us to salvage it if that's all feasible. And Mammon says, and you're here to make a determination? Ben says, yes. And he explains that he's worried, though, because he doesn't want to be seen as the, quote, token Asian in the group. Like,
right.
Oh, you're going to go do this because you're Japanese, even though you don't have some expertise or whatever. And he's saying, if they wanted me to somehow smooth things over with the locals, I'm not local to here. My parents didn't speak Japanese in the home. They were assimilationist, and so it's just not been a part of my life.
Yeah.
But Mammon says, he asks his last name. Ben says Nakadai, and he says, Nakadai, that's quite a storied name, especially in this part of Japan. It makes you a bit of celebrity. You have some rather famous ancestors. And Mammon goes on to start talking about Lord Nakadai. Back in the great days of the samurai, there was a great soldier named Izanagi Nakadai, and this time great wars were fought. Nakadai won a key victory in the name of the emperor, and goes on to explain that he was given a high position in the kingdom. He was one of the great warriors, but he went home from campaign and found that his wife and child were unfortunately dead.
So a couple fun things about the name Nakadai. The reason that Mammon says like, oh, that's like a pretty storied name. The name itself means typically like relationship or not family necessarily, but like friendship. That's like the rough translation. However, Tatsuya Nakadai, it was featured in 11 films directed by Masaki Kobayashi.
Okay.
Including the Human Condition trilogy, wherein he starred as the lead character Kaji, plus Harakiri, Samurai Rebellion, and Kwaidan. He's also worked with Akira Kurosawa.
So he's like a samurai actor.
Yeah, most notably as the main character in Ran.
Okay.
But so like, and he's still alive also.
Wow.
Motohisa Nakadai, come on the pod. He's 92 years old. He was born in 1932. Wow. But yeah, he's a very famous.
So that could be
so many Japanese masters, basically. So many Japanese filmmaking masters.
So that could be why they're using the name here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another note about Lord Nakadai is
he's also he has an uncredited cameo in Seven Samurai. also.
Cool. Great.
So,
Well, when we see Lord Nakadai here, he is very resemblant of a hellspawn.
hell
He's
yeah.
got the chains, he's got the cape, he's got the glowing eyes, he's got skulls. It's never really established that he is a hellspawn, but
He kind of
there
has
is
all the
a
markings, though.
an origin story happening here for him where he goes home to find his family is dead, and he essentially abandons his life. He's overcome with grief for an entire year, it says. And then he decides he meets this old man, a retired samurai who's now a groundskeeper. They have a cup of tea, and it leads to this profound realization where he just rides off away from his lands. He goes off. The old man tells him to find his dragon. And when he finds his dragon, look him in the eye. He says, when you do slay your dragon, be sure to look it in the eye. It will show you what you most fear, but it will also show you what you most need to know. So Nakadai goes on this hunt for his dragon. It takes him years and years, but he finally finds a dragon. I like the rundown of his escapades here, where it says he became a Ronin.
Yeah, this is
He
cool.
he fought tricksters, wizards. He cast 5 demon brothers from the holy temple, and who could that be but the Fleabiax, Vacillator,
Yeah.
Vindicator, Violator, Vaporizer, and Vandalizer.
Much like the way that this story is set
I
up
didn't
as
have to
sort
think
of
about it.
this. I know it's pretty sick. You'd never thought that was going to be the case 2 years ago.
No.
Um,
And I don't even have to vacillate.
well, I go
Yeah.
back and forth about whether or not you'd be able to do it. But uh, what I really love about this is that it's just an echo of the story that we've heard so far. I
Right.
love the idea that a Hellspawn's journey is something that is repetitive, that does reinvent itself in new. Um, I think much like mythology in a lot of ways, right? Where we get
Yes.
stories that are the same across different mythologies. We get similar Hellspawn stories as well. And
Yes.
Lord Nakadai here has kind of in just a few pages, we are to understand that he has had a similar journey to Al Simmons.
Yes. Losing his family, losing hope, leaving behind his storied career as essentially a world famous government assassin,
Was he
a
voted
soldier.
world's sexiest man alive, though?
That's a tough question.
They
I don't
kind of
know if
leave
they were
that out.
doing that yet.
I
Yeah.
imagine that they would.
We'd have to dig into the records a little more.
Yeah.
But he finally does find his dragon. He sees like a spirit child guiding him into the dragon's lair, and we get this sick fucking like spread of the
It's pretty
dragon.
cool.
The like red and green of the like palette is so striking here. You get that like magical green energy and that really hot flaming orange. It's really cool.
It's awesome.
So also awesome is this incredibly intense fight scene that goes on for pages. It says the battle raged through the night until at last their warring began to shake the temple that they were in apart. You see Nakadai like leaping on his back, shredding his scales. It's pretty slick. So they're fighting, and the battle reaches its crescendo. The temple starts to fall apart. We cut to the next page, and we see it crumble as the dragon, presumably, is laughing. Yes, it says the dragon is still laughing at him. I don't even have to presume, I can just read. And you see Nakadai like falling. It says his cape is huge and red. He really looks like a spawn.
Yeah.
And he says, Lord Nakadai had failed to do as the old man had bade him. He forgot to look the dragon in the eye. He finally goes home. Nakadai goes home. He comes home to find his kingdom in ruins. The towns were burned, the fields laid to waste. Even the old man's hut had been razed to the ground. Who could do such a thing? Who would dare? Nakadai strode into the palace, his footsteps echoing on the cold slate floor. He enters the hall, his blood quickens in his veins. Someone is seated upon Nakadai's throne, waiting. Nakadai drew his katana and went to meet this brazen pretender. Whoever it was would pay dearly for his trespass. Then Nakadai froze. He dropped his sword, hands trembling. Rage turned into disbelief when Lord Nakadai saw who it was who sat upon his throne. And I have an idea of what the punchline here is meant to be, but we don't, as readers, find out just yet because Ben Nakadai gets paged by the hotel that the call he was trying to make has gone through. And he unceremoniously ends the conversation and excuses himself, saying he's not really interested in the rest of the story.
Yeah, and Mammon, he finally asks Mammon's name, and he says,
You can
"Oh,
call me Mikoto.
yeah." And Mikoto typically means like Lord or Highness. It's
Yeah.
for like a how you'd refer to it, like a god or noble person. This
Well, there
is
you go.
from Doctor Google. Doctor Internet taught me that just now, which makes sense. That's how Mammon sees himself, obviously. But before they leave, he reminds him
Well,
not to
okay.
forget to look your dragons in the eye.
Never mind. Makoto with an A means sincerity or truth, but he spells it here with a Y.
Yeah, my Koto.
Yeah. Anyway, neither here nor there. I just think that's
The
an
kanji
interesting
for that
way.
can mean life or word.
Well, there you go. I don't speak Japanese at all, so I could be entirely wrong about any of this. Either of us could. If you speak Japanese and you want to enlighten us,
Let us know.
spawnography at spawnography.spawnography.
Spawnographypod@gmail.com.
Thank you. That's what I said.
Please tell us what's right.
Yes, we're doing our best. Anyway, as Ben walks away, Memon says to him, "Don't forget to look your dragons in the eye." And he's on the phone, presumably with his wife. He's saying, "I miss you. Did you take care of yourself? What did the doctor say?" And as he's talking to her, he's doodling this dragon and he's writing, "Look the dragon in the eye." Then all of a sudden, there's this huge lightning crash. He says, "Wow." She says, presumably asked what happened. You only get his side of the conversation. He said, "It just started coming down outside. Looks like I'm in for a hell of a storm." And we see outside the hotel that who is there but Spawn waiting in the rain.
Dum dum dum.
Now,
Great
I
page.
think
Love that
it
page,
is a
by the
great
way.
page. Yeah, it is.
Really, really sharp and jagged Spawn, kind of echoing the lightning bolts in the background. Really cool stuff.
Especially with that sort of like smooth curved building. Very cool
Yeah.
contrasts.
I feel like listeners, you're probably going to feel like we kind of breezed through this one. It is this kind of parable that's being told for most of it. It's a lot of narration because
It is a lot of narration.
it's being told as a story, but even the stuff that's in the present day is also narration. And this is what I meant about it being Claremonty. We're setting Ben Nakadai up for a fall because you don't give that much information about a character you've never met before unless you're planning to try to mine the reader's emotions
Especially
quickly.
with this like parable that seems to connect to the idea of a hellspawn and all that stuff. He's got something coming. And
Yeah.
I have the feeling that the punchline of that story, and maybe you've read ahead, maybe it tells us, maybe it doesn't, but I think it's going to be that he goes home and sees his own corpse on that throne and realizes that he's dead and has been a hellspawn this whole time,
Well, we'll
which would
find
be a
out
pretty
next
sick
week.
answer. We'll see. Maybe I'm way off
Uh,
base.
we can get right into final thoughts. I don't have any back matter this time around. So I'll
Well,
start.
yeah, go for it.
I really like the end of the kingdom. It is the kind of momentum that we've wanted from the book for basically 100 issues and like I
We're
don't know.
finding it.
It's hard to argue with this as just like pretty solid superhero comics. Thinking about the stuff coming out at the time, obviously, so we're 2001, right? We're think about the stuff that's coming out. It's not we're coming out of the Revolution era of the X-Men. Spider-Man is in the JMS
Ugh.
JRJR. I don't even know what's going on at DC because I wasn't a DC reader until like 2010. But there's I don't know. There's a lot of momentum here. This is just fun stuff. It looks great. Medina is really coming into his own. I
Oh,
mean,
the
the
colors are also really, really doing wonders
Computer
at this point.
coloring is figuring itself out and is really making a great showing here. Haberlin, Kemp, and Haberlin Studios just really killing it. I think that the team of inkers really works well together. There's a couple
Yeah.
times like that one Sam that I was like, I feel like I could pick out who this is, but on the whole, it does feel like a really great team effort that really ebbs and flows with each
Seems
other.
like they're dividing it up in a way that maintains some of that visual continuity really well.
And I wouldn't even be surprised if it was just like, yo, you're really good at inking Spawn, so you just ink Spawn. I'm gonna
Right.
just ink this stuff, and then everybody else will fill in the rest, right? Like that
Right.
kind of thing,
There's
that kind of
something like
piecemeal
that
thing.
going on. They're breaking it up
Whatever
somehow that
whatever they're
makes
doing
sense.
is working, is
Yeah.
working. So,
Yeah.
and then the bridge. I am always interested in these kind of parabole type little arcs. It feels like we're killing time because we got something coming down the pike, but I always like them as stories that reinforce things that we've just seen. And the story of Ben Nakadai or Lord Nakadai, it does not just echo Spawn, but it also echoes Twitch
Yes, it
and
does.
his recent situations. So I think is really good. I think that's compelling writing. Also, I want a toy of Lord Nakadai.
Hell yeah.
That shit is cool as fuck. Cool design. Shout out Angel Medina.
I mean, we've
Um,
seen samurai spawn and manga spawn, all that stuff, but it would definitely be a different kind of take. It would
yeah,
look really cool.
for sure. But yeah, I'm having a good time still. George, how about you?
I'll echo your sentiments. I really enjoyed the ending of the kingdom. I thought it was cool. I thought it paid off a lot of stuff in cool ways. I like that it ended with a little bit of setup of like, well, those consequences Ab and Zab mentioned for opening that door are coming quick.
Mm-hmm.
I like that we're probably not going to have to wait long to start seeing how that plays out. And yeah, like you said, they're really finding that rhythm. And I think that great comics just make me want to read more comics, like I always say. And these comics make me want to keep reading comics. They make me want to go, okay, what's happening next? 7 parts of the kingdom. I would have been hooked that whole time as a reader. It had great endings. It had great page turn moments, great cliffhangers. I think it was just a great story. And sometimes another thing I've been like a broken record about is, and we kind of just mentioned this again, is that too often people get hung up on the idea of, does this matter? How does this fit into the canon? How does this, is this a chapter in the meta arc or
Mm-hmm.
whatever? And most comics have never tried to be. Most of the comics that have ever been published in the history of comics have not been trying to be a huge major revelation every time.
Right.
That's something that our current market has tried to necessitate because, frankly, issue to issue comic sales are floundering in a physical market. Uh,
Yeah.
Nobody's fault
Even the big
necessarily,
books.
but even the big books are having a hard time. And so they got to go back on those tried and true, like, well, you better read this one. And I think sometimes that can be to the detriment of comics because comics should be about the craft and it should be about, again, like I said before, it should be about telling a story. It should be about telling a story we want to read. And to me, that doesn't have to mean like this could end the world. At the same time, that was a big enough threat to me that it was like a 7 part story. We talk about we want more Doctor Dooms. We've come back to that Todd quote a few times from our interview. Simon Pure feels like that Doctor Doom to me throughout that 7 issue arc. You could see him coming back at some point somehow. Like
Yeah.
there is a sort of build and a climax and a story wave that we're riding there. In terms of the second issue, I think it's like you said, it's kind of a palate cleanser a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of taking us back into the wider world of Spawn, reminding us that, Mammon is out there and setting up what I assume will be kind of the next chapter in Spawn's journey with having vacated the throne of hell. And I don't mind a little breezy two-parter. Like we said, the pacing of this episode is a little different where we're doing the end of an arc and the beginning of another. And we'll kind of have the end of an arc and the beginning of another on the next episode, but we'll
Oh,
kind of
luckily the
get,
next one we got a one shot
oh, great. Well, there you go. So perfect.
because I'm a
Um,
genius.
all that said, I think these are fun issues to read. I think that the art is getting better every issue. And, if you like Spawn and you like comics, these are good ones to read. These are great ones to read.
Hell yeah. Uh,
I'm just going to say one more thing. Sorry. On that note, I may have said this before, and if I did, you can cut it out. But it's almost like Craven's Last Hunt was not an event.
mm-hmm.
It was like a story that ran through a couple different Spider-Man comics, but it wasn't like it is now, where like One World Under Doom is like 8 issues, but also like 50 tie-ins and all this stuff. It's not a world-shaking story. It's a great story because of the craft behind it and the ideas that it explores.
I was gonna say, to your point about the way that comics sort of, I think that you and I agree on the way that comics should be enjoyed. Um, do you have a favorite issue that might be part of a story, a larger story, might not be? I do feel like, and I know we both talk about the X-Men all the time, and as much as those are large arcs, there are a lot of standalone issues that just happen to kind of tie together because Claremont is kind of the master of weaving the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H plot.
Right.
Um, he might forget about a couple of them, but in maybe I'll say this: in the last 25 years, do you have any issue that you're like, oh, I loved going back to that one?
Um like just any comic
Yeah, even if
from the
it's a part
last
of a larger story, but just
from the
like,
last 25 years.
yeah, something that came out in the last 25 years.
Okay. I mean, I have a couple that I go back to that are older than that, but from when I was a
Mm-hmm.
kid. But in the last 20 years, there are some series I love going back to. I mean, like Hawkeye and Pizza Dog.
Yeah,
That's always really lovely to read.
great one
Um,
shot.
I'm trying to think because I'm also trying to contextualize that time frame. Um, that's a tough question to answer.
I,
One,
I, I
okay,
definitely have
there
one.
I have one. And this is kind of a random one, and I got to figure out which issue it is. So, what was yours?
So mine's also kind of a random one, but it is one of the 12 comics I ever gave a 10 out of 10 on Best Shots,
All right.
which is Defenders #4 in December of 2011 uh, by Matt Fraction and the Dodsons. And that's like that Defenders team. So it's part one of an arc called Breaker of Worlds Part 1, I Hate Myself and Want to Die.
Amazing.
And it's Doctor Strange, Namor, Silver Surfer, Red She-Hulk, and Iron Fist.
Yeah.
And they fight,
Weird lineup.
and Hulk shows up, and the new men of Wundagore, and Prester John's first appearance, and Null,
Yeah.
and like it's a weird comic, but it just goes. It's just like that is one that like I think it's one of the first comics that when I was writing at Best Shots, I gave because I started writing there in 2011. Oh my god, it's one of the first comics I gave a 10 out of 10 to. And I remember in my review, I was like, "This is the Ramones in '74. Like this is Nirvana in the '90s. Like this is like the first Nirvana show in the '80s. Like this is everything because it's so bizarre, it's so weird, but it just whenever I think that I'm over comics, that I'm like, I've grown out of this. I grew up on comics because my dad got me into them, but my dad doesn't read comics anymore, and he hasn't for most of my adult life. But he used to be like at the comic book store all the time,
Right.
buying stuff that was new stuff that was coming out, buying old issues that he wanted. And then he just stopped. And I was like, oh, I guess that's how it goes. You just stop at some point. And I've never felt that way
Right.
fully. But anytime that I sort of get jaded, this is one of the comics that I go back to and I just go, yeah, hell yeah. And it's the one that when I thought of this question for you, it's the one that popped into my head immediately. So I knew it
Mm.
was the answer. And are the Dodsons my favorite artists of all time? No. Do I like
Good
them?
though.
Sure. They're great. Is Matt Fraction my favorite writer of all time? At the time, probably higher on my list than he is now. But no, he's not my favorite. But this is still just one that I'll come back to over and over and over again. It feels like playing the hits.
For me, it's going to be a really random issue, and it's almost a similar thing. The issue is the original volume of New Avengers number 28. It's from 2007. It's one
Okay.
of the first issues after Civil War, and it's from the Bendis era. It's not that special an issue. The Avengers fight the Hand. It's the issue, I believe, where Elektra is revealed as a Skrull, or the one before that.
Mm,
But the thing that I like about it that drew me to it is the art by Lionel Yu.
nice.
I just for like 2 years just had that issue in my bag at all times because I just loved the art in it so much. And what makes it so interesting and unique is, first off, I'm a huge fan of Lionel Yu. As we all know, got noticed by Marvel Comics after winning contests in Wizard Magazine to draw Wolverine. Then
Yeah.
went on to
Also,
start drawing
super iconic
Wolverine.
cover, by the way.
Yes, that cover hooked me. And like the thing that's really interesting about this is there's no inker. Lionel Francis Yu did all the pencils.
It's
And
colors
then,
over pencils.
yes. And then it was colored by Dave McCaig. And there is no inker. And
Wow.
the art just fucking blew my mind. Still does. I love it. You can see how it's inked. It's quote unquote inked. It's all mechanical pencil. It's a
Mm-hmm.
similar thing to what Frank Quitely did on All-Star Superman, which is that he drew everything in like blue lines and then quote unquote inked it with a mechanical pencil and then scanned it and put it into a high contrast so
Wow.
that it looked like ink. And then, of course, Jamie Grant made it look incredible with colors. So that's been All Star Supermanography. You know,
uh, wow. Yeah. Oh man, I am looking at this issue right now, and I'm just like, yeah, it
it just looks
slams,
so good. There's so much
slams.
personality in
Such
the art,
great
and I was just so
cartooning.
blown away by it.
It's awesome. It's so cool. Anyway, recommendations, George. You got anything before we head out?
Yeah, you know what? I'll go ahead and do a pretty mundane recommendation. If you're not already watching it by the time this comes out, check out Peacemaker Season 2. It's pretty fucking
Hell
good.
yeah.
I have
Hell yeah.
seen the first 5 episodes at this point. No one has seen the last 3. It's incredibly secretive. But all 5 episodes are fucking great. There's a new episode coming out tomorrow, real time, or 2 days from
No,
now, real
Thursday.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That has maybe the darkest thing I have ever seen in a James Gunn movie. And I'm counting Super.
Wow. Uh, wow. That's incredible. I can't wait. Yeah, I love Peacemaker. It's super fun. For me, my recommendation will be. I mean, I'm going to recommend that Defenders issue because I really, really do love it, and I think that it's an underrated little run to read that whole little. I think he maybe only did 10 issues of
It
that
is an
Defenders run.
interesting comic, and it's got some funny little elements in it, like
Super of its
the
time.
notes and the margins and stuff, and like weirdly meta.
But on a similar note, I'm going to recommend Matt Fraction's Batman. By the time
I
this
need to
comes
get
out,
into it.
it will have been out. I've read the first 2 issues.
I need to read them.
It is certainly something, and I'm really excited about it. The art is incredible. Obviously, Jorge Jimenez is just one of our modern greats.
Oh yeah, there's a
and
reason he's a go-to for a lot of these stories.
I mean, it's crazy that he can just use pictures of himself as reference, and he doesn't.
I
Even need
know
to,
he's
doesn't even need to add any muscles.
what a guy.
Just what a specimen. I mean that with all respect. But yeah, just and I don't know. I feel like we say this every week, but read some fucking comics.
Just read some comics.
So
Read some
anyway,
Spawn comics.
before we go, George, one, I want to say that Herbie deserves rights, but
We're never going to agree on that.
on top of that,
he's a fucking Teddy Ruxpin that flies.
wow.
You going to give Teddy Ruxpin the vote?
I would give Teddy Ruxpin rights. He's sentient.
No. Teddy Ruxpin is a tape recorder.
Hey, listeners, chime in. Does Teddy
No.
Ruxpin deserve rights?
Does Teddy Ruxpin deserve rights? These are the questions of 2025 for some reason.
George, for God so loved the world.
He gave his only begotten spawn.
See you later, Hellspawn. Spawnography is recorded in Athens, Georgia, and Queens, New York. It's produced by me, Pierce Lyden. Our theme music and logo were composed by George Marston. Episodes come out every Monday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like the show, please rate, review, subscribe. You can find us on social media at Spawnography or at SpawnographyPod. If you'd like to reach out to us directly, you can do so at spawnographypod@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and until next time, see you later, Hellspawn.